We took over Bangs Island Mussels in 2010. It was very, very tiny. We had one employee, one little boat, and a barge. But we believed in what we were doing. We believed in the concept. We actually started to embody the dream that we had of doing a lot of good, not just for the environment, but also for the people around us. My name is Matthew Moretti. I'm the CEO of Bangs Island Mussels. The basic concept of how we farmed mussels hasn't really changed over the last few decades. We use large floating rafts out in the ocean, and we hang ropes from those rafts, and the mussels grow in those ropes. That's like the concept. Basically, mussel farming is as simple as you can get at a conceptual level. We put mussels in the water on our ropes, and we don't do anything else to them except to protect them. We don't have to use any additions at all. No feed, no fertilizer, no chemicals of any kind. They just exist and eat off of the nutrients naturally around them in the water. So at that conceptual level, mussel farming is super simple. Mussels are incredibly effective and efficient filter feeders. So by eating that phytoplankton from the water, they can actually help control the nutrient inputs into our ecosystem.
Island Institute is very much a data-driven organization. We know that the seafood economy is hugely important to Maine. We are also concerned about making sure the foods that we're eating have a relatively low impact on the climate.
Almost across the board, things farmed in the ocean are a more efficient source of protein for people to eat than protein grown on land.
We wanted to really figure out our lobster, our oysters, our mussels, climate-friendly local food sources.
Island Institute, in partnership with Bangs Island Mussels, commissioned a study of their greenhouse gas footprint, in part to figure out, what the overall emissions are, but more importantly, to find where any hotspots are, or any outsized sources of emissions that we could help potentially find solutions to, and that will help the business both improve, its carbon footprint, but then also help its bottom line, because generally, places where you're emitting carbon into the atmosphere, you're also burning through dollars pretty quickly. They don't need vague answers. They want to know exactly what they can do to improve their business, both in terms of climate solutions, but then also in terms of how to save money. Right? We're not here to find numbers. What we're here to do is to find ways to help people keep working on the water, keep making money, and we're also here to fight climate change. That's the point. It points to two big sources of emissions over any others, by a lot. Loss in yield due to shell breakage, right? So that means they're coming back with, less food on each trip, right? Than they could. And then the other is fuel use while operating their boats on the farm. The marine decarb team here has been working for a while on smaller scale electric outboards, hybridization projects for lobster boats, so a much larger scale boat, and that all has the potential to help these businesses lower their carbon footprint. It's in the future, but maybe not as far in the future as we might have thought. If you look at the lifespan of an electric motor and batteries, it is affordable over the life of that technology, but up front, it's way too expensive for most businesses. We want to change that so that people can stay in business and keep operating and keep lowering their emissions, and then they just see the savings by not having to buy gas for the rest of the time they're on the water.
Humans are emitting a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, primarily carbon dioxide, or CO2. A lot of this carbon dioxide, about a quarter to a third of it, is absorbed by the ocean. This causes the ocean's chemistry to change, making it more acidic. Shellfish, like mussels, have a harder time growing their shells in acidic water, making them more brittle and vulnerable to breakage during harvesting and processing. Island Institute partnered with Bigelow Laboratory for Ocean Sciences to conduct a study that showed that kelp, like a land plant, absorbs excess carbon dioxide in its environment as it grows. This allows for improved shell production in nearby shellfish. It's an environmental win. Both of these species are basically cleaning the water through taking up excess nutrients. They're helping each other. The kelp is taking up excess carbon dioxide, and it's growing better as a result, and it's improving the water chemistry so that the mussels can have thicker shells. And so then when they're harvested, if you can go from 13% broken shells down to 5%, because they're just a little bit thicker, you're taking more unbroken mussels home on the boat, and you're lowering your carbon footprint.
We started farming kelp in the very beginning of the industry in the United States because it was an opportunity to do more good for the ocean around us. It was also a cool, fun, interesting opportunity to just experiment and see, like, could we do this? And we did, and it worked. By farming mussels and kelp together, I like to say that we're farming more of an ecosystem rather than a monoculture. And as we grow and evolve as a company, we plan to do more than just mussels and kelp. We want to explore what's out there and build efficiencies on the knowledge and infrastructure that we already have to have even more products and be even more robust and resilient as a company into the future.
There aren't many sources of emissions when you're doing this type of farming. Mussels consistently fall within, when you're comparing them to other sources of protein, they are lower, far lower than any other animal protein, and even lower than tofu.
Mussel farming is one of the most sustainable sources of protein production out there. When we go out to harvest, we fill up the boat. It's typically around 6,000 to 7,000 pounds each harvest. And that's a lot of food, that's a lot of meals for people. We assumed that what we're doing is great for the environment, and by participating in the study, we found that out for sure.
Mussels have such potential in the Gulf of Maine. I'd love to see more commercial mussel farms here in the Gulf of Maine. They thrive in the cold, clean waters that we have here.
It is particularly exciting when you think about the fact that it's actually an affordable seafood. It's kind of a seafood for the people.
Mussels are an incredible species, and I don't think they've really gotten enough credit. They haven't gotten the credit that they deserved traditionally. And they are a species that at a big enough scale can actually help feed the world. They can grow all over the place, they're highly nutritious, and they're accessible to almost any demographic of people because they're not that expensive. They're one of the least expensive seafoods you can buy. They're like a center of the plate protein. You can eat a dish of mussels for a meal, and that's very good for you. I'm really happy with where we are now. I'm happy with the adaptations we've made as a company to better respond to the environment around us. I'm happy with the knowledge that we're now bringing in to understand the ocean. I think we're on the cusp of something even greater and better.